Hi everyone, it's really nice to be here. Thank you so much. It's so nice to have you here up in the front. I really like this coziness of this room. It's really, really good. Okay, what are we looking at? This is a little bit stupid, you know, to bring a picture of mountains to Innsbruck. But I took this photo 4 years ago. It's actually taken from one of our wonderful buildings up on Dovrefjell in Norway. This is a national park in Norway. So you're looking out from the Norwegian reindeer pavilion. I don't know if you've seen that one. I don't have a picture because it's on the other side. But this is what it looks like when you look out of that building. It's a quite small building. It's like a shelter where you can go and everything is open. It's open all year around, 24 hours, and there's a constant fire burning inside, and it's open for everyone. So you can just go in and have a little bit piece of shelter and watch this beautiful view. But anyways, this is a start picture that we like because it's a lot about the Norwegian wilderness and the heritage of Snøhetta. It all started 1989. I wasn't in Snøhetta by that time, but there's a lot of history and heritage built into this company. And that's why I think we connect so good with Austria also. And I think that was the thinking about Kjetil coming here and also Patrick starting up the shop here in Innsbruck, that we felt this connection with, you know, the love for nature, the love for being close to nature, just walking outside your door and being out there. That's absolutely amazing. Since I'm Swedish, I'm used to that too, but I spent a lot of years in Oslo. I worked almost 4 years in Oslo before we started up a little shop also in Stockholm. So now I'm heading the Stockholm office, which is mainly focusing on retail at the moment. A lot of architecture as well, a lot of design, but in Stockholm it's really booming, you know, this kind of retail thing. We got this giant company called H&M. I don't know if you know that one. They sell clothes. So they have a lot of retail things, and they're driving, you know, the fashion industry in Sweden, which is huge at the moment. So a lot of these things, you know, help us to get onto some really interesting projects. I don't have any projects from Sweden today, but maybe next time. All right, these are our offices as per today. And Innsbruck is here. We're 35 people in Innsbruck, I think. 30? 25. Well, give and take. 25. But we work like 35. Right? Stockholm is there. We're only 4 people in Stockholm at the moment. Oslo, 80 almost. We have a pretty large office in New York. There we're almost 70, I think, at the moment. So we're quite big there as well. We have a little studio in San Francisco. It's 10 people in San Francisco, mainly because we were building the extension to the Museum of Modern Art in San Francisco. And then we have Adelaide, only 2 people, but it's so far away, so you don't need so many people. So, how many of you are architects here tonight? Or working or studying architecture? Oh, good. There's a lot of people. Designers? Oh, that's a perfect mix. And then we have all the rest. No, sorry. How many of you have listened to Kjetil? Who were at the lecture? You were there? Oh, sorry. Yeah, a couple of you. So you know a little bit about our process. That's interesting. I learned that he talked a lot about how we work and how we work together and how diverse our landscape is. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but then we're going to dive into the more of the graphics works and stuff. But just to give you a little bit of a, you know, introduction, why this is a book with all our collected works. It has a meaning why this is done like this. So it's Snøhetta, then it's people, process, and projects, and it's exact this order that we actually work. As you can see, well, okay, the company comes first. Then after that, people. And after people, which is one of our absolute greatest assets and the absolutely most important thing, because without our people, we can't do anything. After that is our process and how we work together. So people working together. And the very last one, what you wouldn't really expect from a company like Snøhetta. And if you go to our website or you browse the web or anything, you see a lot of works and a lot of buildings and a lot of beautiful things. But projects come last. So that's how actually we internally categorize our work or what we do. So Snøhetta and the process, I brought a little film. I don't know, maybe some of you have seen it, but it's actually explaining a little bit about what we do and the workshop that everything starts with. So here's a little film.
One of the interesting aspects of Snøhetta is that we have experienced our work in different parts of the world, different regions, different countries. And there's a wonderful and rich dialogue that can grow between these places. We work really as a sort of unified idea, but we find different experiences and different qualities that we're able to bridge or share between these locations. And that's part of what the experience of working with Snøhetta is, that you're experiencing a larger idea of human culture rather than a very specific or very narrow view of cultural ideas and ideologies.
Snøhetta Design is a multidisciplinary design group. Both graphic designers, interior architects, and landscape architects coming together and basically sitting down together with the client, getting their input and their information in an intensive day, creating a concept, an idea that's the core of their new image, their new brand. The workshops in and of themselves are a lot more casual than an average meeting. They're not a workshop where you sit in only a meeting room. We break out into smaller groups and we create things in the workshop. It's very hands-on, it's a little bit more relaxed. People are laughing and smiling and they're using the tools that we have here in order to create these concept models in which we would present to the whole group after. I think in the beginning they might be a little surprised that we're getting out of the meeting room and coming into the workshop and getting a little bit dirty to start to cut wood or cut plastic and assemble some materials together to create this object that might represent their new visual identity. I think it really sparks an interest in their own way of thinking about themselves or their company.
We're explorers here in many ways. Each day that when we come to work, it's an exploration. We're exploring different ideas, different attitudes, and we're coming to terms with the conditions of the things that we make. Good exploration requires teamwork, and it requires directness, and it requires good knowledge of the conditions that you're within. So in many ways, we deal with our projects, with our sort of endeavors in a way that brings dialogue and promotes dialogue between different groups of people.
The workshops themselves allow you to throw out a lot of ideas in these groups where sometimes where the client might not know what is involved in coming up with the initial concepts or just the basic design process that as designers and architects we're sort of understanding that's our work is the design process. So it's fantastic to include them within that process and to show them the initial concept sketches and concept models without looking at a final product.
Yeah, I like this film because it shows you a very important thing about Snøhetta, and that's how physical we are. Coming as a former art director and designer, living in a very visual world, we're all living in a quite visual world today. And coming to a company that are utterly physical is really, really amazing. So this isn't just the workshops that we do. We do these kind of workshops together with the client, so we totally co-create almost everything together with the client and with other companies as well. But what we do is that we, coming as an art director into this and seeing all this that we have and start to work with your hands and build things and model things and work with clay and whatever. Sorry, I just need to grab this book. That's pretty amazing. So just to explain a little bit about the process is that we try every day to see things three-dimensional. And that's very interesting from my point of view, because a lot of things today is done in front of the computer. Actually, you really don't have to leave the computer today. You can do almost everything there. I mean, you can have your friends there, and well, you can't eat dinner there, but you can eat dinner in front of your computer. And there's a lot of things going on in this digital world. And it's not that we're anti-digital, because we love digital things as well. We are working a lot with computerized renders, and there's a bunch of programs that's almost we can't live without, and things like that. And we do a lot of amazing websites as well. But we like to get together with people and work together with people and discuss and sit face to face and feel and touch things. So what you're going to see today of the work that I picked out is, I think, the result that comes from this a little different approach to graphic design and to design in general. That means that it's also applicable to product design and wayfinding and that type of design as well. So it's not only graphic design and imagery like that. But these are what I think that we could say now that we are our main disciplines. It's a little bit hard to talk about exactly what we do, because we do so many different things and we don't really see the boundaries. So when someone asks me, do you work for Snøhetta Brand Design? I get a little bit confused, because we don't really talk about that internally. We don't really say that we are part of a section or anything. I'm pretty sure that my colleagues that are here tonight agree with me that we constantly, let go of these kind of stupid titles and these kind of stupid things. And that's how transdisciplinary work functions, and how we then could constantly change roles with each other. So we have this kind of transdisciplinary approach. So one day I can be an architect, and the other day I will be a designer again, and the next day I will be a strategist, or I will be someone that is very well versed with poetry or something like that. And then we change, so we get a poet in to get a point of view of our newest building, because architecture can also be poetry, and it can also be a movie. And basically, just to sum it up, and what you're going to see here today is the thinking that we have in our group when it comes to graphic design and when it comes to design in general. I think that most of us would sign a document that says design is everything, because it is. Because when we walk in here, this is design. This is design also, and this table here that has this kind of logical point of interaction is design, and this very presentation is design. So and this is also design, and this is it's a very simplified structure. And what I think is interesting with this one is that this little structure here, going from a cube to a building, is because of this door that you see here. And what we're trying to do in every project that we are working with is finding this door, this entryway into the design that you're doing, making people understand how they can interact with the design and understand the design and enter the design. Without a door or without an entrance, you won't be able to understand the design, you won't be able to appreciate the design, you won't be able to interact with the communication and understand the communication and comment the communication or anything, because you don't really understand it. So I'd like you, this is a little bit of a recommendation. This book is really interesting. Those of you who have gone to architectural schools You might have stumbled upon this one before. It's kind of different because it's actually, what it's doing, this is written by a Finnish architect. What it's doing, it's actually saying that modern architecture as per from somewhere from the 1930s with functionalism has lost its ability to interact with all senses. So it's just interested in one sense, and that's sight. So this is very critical to sight. That sight has ever been, since the Greeks, has been one of the most important things to communicate, and still is today with all the photographs we're taking, and you know how busy we are with taking the most perfect snapshot picture or whatever and posting it, you know, all the time. So this is very relevant today. It's a good read. It's now, I think, almost 30 years old. The interesting thing here with this one is that you can apply this book also to graphic design and to design in general, because in our thinking, and also in my thinking, design should be for all senses. It should involve scent. It should involve, you know, touch, which is one of the fundamental things that he's actually arguing about in this book. The sense of touch, the physical way of actually interacting with a product. Hence, we are doing a logotype like this. This is a logo that we did, I think it was almost 4 years ago. This is one of the oldest projects that I have in this presentation. This logotype is for Newsbeast. It's the company that owns Newsweek in the US. And they also have a couple of other sites and a couple of other publishing companies. And this is the mother company of that. So it's a publishing company. So we made this logotype with this giant N. And we printed it out. And the idea of this one, or the concept behind this one that came up in the workshop, was interpunctations. You know, points, dots, dashes, and things like that help you write. If you take those away from a text, it's almost, you can't read it. It's impossible. You don't know where it starts and where it ends, you know, and things, and who says what, and what's the pace of the text. So these little signs were very interesting in this concept, creating this logotype. And as we prototype this one, as you can see, there's a backslash, a comma, a period, and an underscore. And once we turn it, then this little thingy, exclamation mark, also appears. So the interesting thing about this 3D view of a logotype, that maybe you don't think about that when you're sketching it just flat with your pencil or something like that. And what we're trying to do is to make things even more physical and three-dimensional, because there are things hidden there that could be pretty interesting. And in our digital world, this becomes even more important, to think about these things, to actually make things and try things and prototype things that you can touch and feel, to enhance them even further. This is another example. This one is maybe not as clear as the previous one. This is a huge respiration company called ResMed. They do these kind of masks, you know, for people that have a problem with breathing. So it's like these kind of sleep masks. You wear it during your sleep, and it helps you get more air into your lungs. And this idea about ResMed is what we think communicated totally through this wave. This is a sinus wave. For those of you who have studied architecture, you are very well versed with this kind of sinus wave. It's also a representative for a pulse, for a heartbeat. This is how your heart works all the time. It's pumping blood in and out. And then on the left side, it's blue blood. And what is that? Deoxygenated blood. And on the right-hand side, it's red blood. That means that the blood has then been oxygenated. So you got oxygen in the blood. So it's actually, you know, totally explaining what the company does and how it helps people. And this can only be found out if you study things, and if you actually go to their sessions, you see these kind of machines working, and you prototype together with them, because this is an insight from the company. So working together with them leverages this idea and gets and makes it as simple as this. So these are the brand colors of the system. It's just red and blue because it's about getting from blue to red in the company. So hence only 2 colors in the color system. Right, so projects. Sorry, I think we have to stay until 12 or something. No, okay, projects. Cool, this is a cool building. This is one of our newest projects. This is a restaurant. Yes, it is. It's an underwater restaurant that we're building in Lindesnes in Norway. It's called Under in Norwegian. That's Unta in German. And it's in Swedish and Norwegian, this name's got a double meaning because Under in Swedish and Norwegian also means wonder. So it's an interesting name. This is the first underwater restaurant in the Northern Hemisphere, and it's actually the first of its kind that actually, uses water like this. So we've also, all together in the team, crafted the logotype, and it's as simple as this. It's the diagonal or the exact angle of the restaurant. Here you can see that working together, designers and architects come to the conclusion that why would we have another idea for this one? The idea is already there in the architecture, so we just emphasize that. This is like a celebration for the architecture. What's interesting also in this particular building is that there's a section here that goes under the water. It's like 20 or 30% underwater. And this is raw concrete, this whole thing. It's the same material that they built the bunkers, during the war. It's really, really thick. It's almost thick like this. And it's also very nasty and hard. So it's very tactile. So if you touch it, it's like, amazing to touch. And what happens underneath here, I think you can guess what happens underneath. There's a lot of things that sticks to this material. And that's a part of the process. That's a part of actually, celebrating the senses, thinking of architecture as something that will live together with nature, that would be, defining the space, that would define our lives, and that will be, okay with this withering or this kind of process that goes on when things get older. So this is a very good example on how we think also in architecture when it comes to these kind of things, that we're not producing something that will stand forever or look polished all the time. It's much more interesting to see what is life and how will it change during the years and during the seasons and things like that. So what the logotype is trying to do here also is that there's another section here that's totally changing all the time. Oh, there's another render. This is the entrance. So here you enter. And let me just skip to this slide actually here. And you'll see what happens to the logotype, that there's various definitions of the logotype that will change then also. That will have different materials here. There will be some materials that are in foil, metallic foil. Some are just lacquered and things like that. But it's always the under part that changes, emphasizing the idea of the architecture. So let me just go back. This is a pretty cool shot from an aerial shot. Here's actually a huge sand bank here that you will be able to see everything outside when this one is built. In Lindesnes, in southern part of Norway, the water is quite clear. It's not really as clear as, let me see, this one, but somehow we're getting, I think, pretty close in reality here. It's going to be a light rig outside here that, lightens up the area outside. This is done together with a hotel chain, and it's also going to be a kickoff for a research project about marine life. So this is also supporting the marine life in southern part of Norway, and there's going to be there's a foundation that is specialized in this to preserve the marine life. Right, so that was under money. This is a project that we did to get some more money. No, this was a competition for the Norwegian bank, or Bank of Norway. And we won this competition, and this is, I think, one of the coolest projects I've ever worked with. Our idea of this one, it was really complicated. So in the end, we made this as a huge collaboration. So, and we tried to get as many people as possible to participate in this one. We shared the winning first place with another design agency. So this is the 100 note. I thought I was going to have one with me, but I couldn't get one. The idea here, it's a lot of technical stuff when you're designing money. It's something also that has been hugely discussed. Are money really surviving, the next century? So how will they survive? And, this is some things that we thought of when we were, coming up with ideas and working around in the team with this. Will this be the last money in Norway ever? Why don't we do them digital? So this is the first initial thought was actually, we can be digital too, but only much more beautiful. So that was the very first idea. Then we had a lot of other ideas. The main task from Norway's bank was that we were going to communicate the coastline of Norway. There's a lot of things there, everything from how Norwegians get their food and how connections are made, how the Vikings sailed off, and all these kind of things. So there's a lot of history and heritage built into this. So the visuals are actually depicting that. So this is actually an oil rig. This is just the horizon looking out for the future. So the 1,000 note will be the future. And it's built up like this. So the pattern here's the full series. So it goes from the 50 kroner note here with these square pixels to the 1,000 note here. And then you wonder, why is it changing like this? That's because of the Beaufort scale of wind velocity and how the wind affects you and also affects the notes like this. So inspiration, this was interesting. In the group we studied a lot. We as I said, we work very, very transdisciplinary. So this is one of the oldest mosaics in the world. It's from Mesopotamia, 3,000 years before Christ. And this is a pretty recent picture. And this is how it's built up. So this was interesting because it tells us about heritage, it tells us about history, and how this money is something that is very important. It's actually a kind of a logotype for a country, in a way. It becomes a logotype for Norway. It's their view to the world. This is, a symbol for Norway when you're holding this bill in your hand, as well as you're coming to the States and holding a dollar bill. It's built into the world of money with this thing. So pixels, Paul Klee was there as well, very interesting. And this guy, so there was a lot of inspiration from art and ancient art also, but also modern art like this, modern art movements, how you could build up pictures from tiny, tiny, small pixels like this. How actually low res you can get and still get the picture. So we studied a lot of these as well when we worked with the bills. Valsa. This is a very local brand. It comes from a small village in Vals, up in the mountains. It's absolutely gorgeous there. And it's only, I think, 3 hours from here by train or something. You go to Sjur, or you have to change trains in Zurich. But you should definitely go there. It's a beautiful spa there. Peter Zumthor's amazing building. Well, you should definitely visit Therme Vals. That's what they're famous for. And this water is amazing. It's they have two sources. One is in the valley and one is up in the mountains. So it's pure mountain water, and they actually harvest the water direct from the mountain. And it tastes amazing, and it's highly mineralized. And the only water here in Austria that comes close is actually Rømøkveldet and such. So this is the logotype that we did for them. I don't have the old one, but we came up with a concept called Foundation that told the story about how this brand is something that is harvested from the mountains, how stable this is, how nothing really moves up there. This total tranquility of going up in the mountains, a lot of you know how it is. I mean, going up and hiking in Mayhofen is absolutely amazing too, but this is a very tranquil place. So Foundation was the idea. Foundation dictates a few things. It tells us that it should be pretty simplified. It should be kind of straightforward. It shouldn't be in its identity and its communication. It shouldn't strive to be someone else, you know. This is a book that we did celebrating the Swiss Alps. The Swiss people are very proud of their mountains. This is the brand identity system. And as you can see, this is pretty straightforward. We wanted to here also celebrate the heritage of Swiss design. We have this heritage which sometimes is quite hard to grasp because you have to be better than that. But I like to see it as an inspiration. So we thought of Swiss design as an inspiration for this one, celebrating this heritage and building upon that one. Let's see a little bit of a film here. Now, what's the time? Let's watch this movie and then we can take a little bit of a pause. Now, actually, before I start this thing, because I remember a very cool thing that I wanted to tell you. Design and architecture for Snøhetta is sometimes comparable with movies, actually, the structural movies. But what we like to see the concept as one single idea. Or actually, if you turn it into a film, it's the script. So the concept for us is the script for the design. That means that if all of you here together with me are going to do a design together, we have to come up with just one concept, one script, and we have to stick with it. Because what will happen if you write a script, and you write a script, and you write another script, and then you go to a director and a cinematographer, here, this is what we should film, 5 different scripts. How will that movie be? So that's why I think it's interesting coming from the film world that I've worked with film and television for 10 years, directing a lot of films, commercials mainly, but written a lot of scripts. And the idea of teamwork in film industry is amazing, hence the references to Game of Thrones. So if you want to see real teamwork, watch the behind the scenes movies of Game of Thrones. It's absolutely amazing. And I'd like, you know, every one of you here that are working with design and architecture and maybe studying it, think about that, how important teamwork is. It is as important as the final result. The process is super important. And imagine what you can do together. Okay, so, no, sorry, I have to push this little thing. See if the sound is okay. Yeah. Enjoy.
For me, good design is really all about simplicity. It's about leaving away the unnecessary, and it's about communicating the very essence, the core of the brand, the core of the idea. I think the great thing working with Snøhetta is really about collaboration, about co-creation, about mutual respect, about integrating different perspective and opinions.
The main task for us in the beginning when starting up a project is to create a concept, and we do that together with the client, because that's how we all become aligned, and how if you have a strong concept, it's so easy to design because you can always go back to the concept and the concept will answer the questions that you have for you.
We had a workshop together with Balzer in Zurich last year, so we've been working almost a year now. This workshop was a great help, and it's always a great help to co-create together with the client. We came to some very important insights about this brand, and that was that Balzer has a great history, and it also is an amazing product. And that product and that history we wanted to join together. We wanted people to understand that the simplicity of this water is actually the grandness of it. The rain falls on the mountains and it's filtered, the water is filtered through all these layers of rock, of actually Balzer Stein, Balzer rock, and out comes this beautiful product. That simple but yet grand moment we wanted to incorporate into the identity of Balzer.
I am falling. I am drifting. Endless journey through time. What once was is now.
One of the best outcomes resulting of the project is really the brand film. We, together with Snøhetta and Chocolate Films, realized this film about the water being made by mountains. And we started to air it in mid-April 2015. And the results we got, the reactions we got from customers, from employees, from consumers are just amazing. This seems to be the new era of branding, where you basically tell a very honest story about your product and brand, where it comes from, what it does, and what's special about it. And do that in a very authentic way. And we got amazing feedbacks on, let's say, channels like YouTube, where consumers say this is the best ever commercial they have seen, this is actually not advertising, this is art, and so many more comments. So this makes us really proud because it's coming directly from consumers, it's coming from their hearts, which makes us really proud.
I am a cloud and a puddle. I'm 10,000 beads. I'm floating. I always find my way. I blend with every color. I am 10,000 shades. And that dripping, calming sound, that's me.
Talking about the brand film, this is really about the journey of the water being told, taking the water's perspective. So it's really the first time that water speaks for itself and expresses points of view on its journey through the rocks.
The design concept for Balzer is called foundation. A foundation is something that is very stable. It doesn't change over time. It's like a mountain. It's always there when you visit it, and when you revisit it, it looks the same. We wanted it to have this feeling of secureness and honesty, and to be stable.
I would say when we did the foundation workshop, we talked a lot about what Balzer is and represents and what it's not. And then there was this beautiful brand axiom, which is really a brand truth, something you don't have to prove. It's just valid, it's just true, which is about the water being made by mountains. And we like this idea so much because it's simple, it's understandable, and it's true. And this very well fits the concept that we have for Walser of being an honest brand.
One of the most important things when working with label design for us was to enhance the Walser logo type so that it actually is the hero of the design.
The two most important things for us are simplicity and consistency when it comes to branding. And I think Walser had a very, very deep understanding about this. They also wanted to focus on this. They knew that they had a beautiful product. They knew that they had a water that no one else had. So I think given that we shared this same understanding, I think it was quite easy to come to this conclusion of actually just having 4 colors, a simplified logo type, of course the Swiss flag as an endorser of that this is something that is Swiss made, that we are proud of, and also this the simplicity of and the clarity of the Swiss typeface that we chose. Here we have the new typeface of Walser. It's designed by Ein Swiss Typefaces Interior in Switzerland. And as you can see here, it's simplified and it's very straight to the point. We were after this clarity in the typeface and the straightforwardness of the Swiss type to be able to increase the shelf impact for a product and to be able to write all the names of the products and make them as prominent as possible.
Walser is an ambassador brand to the world representing pure natural mineral water from the Swiss Alps, and the logo has to communicate that through design. I think to me the new logo, as an expression of the brand and values that we represent with Walser, it's very strong, it's very much signaling the quality that we represent.
We wanted to create a more modern look to it, and we needed to take away some of the details and refine.
So the logo does a great job in communicating on shelf, ensuring a great standout and visibility on shelf. It's also honest, there's no clutter, it's crisp, clean, secure, and this is what we want to associate Walser with.
The colors are completely dedicated to the Walser brand. It's 4 main colors. The first one is the red, the Swiss red. Then we have the black, it's mountain black. And then we have silver as a main key color, because silver is representing the minerals in the water. So it actually tells the story about the product.
What we have more is the green color. It's called emerald green. And really is the color representing Walser Classic. Of course, we also have white. Not only do we use a lot of white space in the design, white is also a color representing purity, freshness, the crispness of the water, and also ultimately representing snow.
The idea of the images is to capture Vals. It has some kind of mystical, magical aura to it, and we wanted to take that aura into the image style, and also to make the images look kind of tasty.
then I think working with Snøhetta allowed us to contribute with our point of view from a brand and company side, while still ensuring we get really the very best design we can find. And working with Snøhetta is about paying attention to all the details. Design work is all about the details, getting this right. And looking at the final result, I think we can be really, really happy with what we got to.
Just visiting this place, which is quite enigmatic, is a wonderful experience. And I think this visit helped the team a lot to come to a conclusion on how this identity would be crafted. And hopefully this is something that you will feel and that you will sense when you are exposed to this, when you are exposed to the brand, when you're drinking Valse water, when you're buying Valse product. That I know is actually one of the core things that we were thinking about at Snøhetta when we created this. We wanted this to be very simple. We wanted the idea of the water and the product to be the most prominent thing. The product is always the most important thing, and that should be communicated through design. Okay, let's build 2 more projects and then we just have a discussion. I can go through this quite quickly. Scent is quite cool because we did a perfume or graphic design for perfume, Oda Norbury. It's a brand that is from, this is a project that we did in Los Angeles. This is a guy who's a Iranian American who started this, coming up with this brand, a scent brand, with a lot of cosmetics and a lot of body lotions and things like that. But this whole thing about Oda Norbury means descendant from the north. He came to us and said, listen, Mattias, you know, in the future, there will be 7 colonies. And the post-human will inhabit these 7 colonies on 7 different planets. There, I'm going to introduce my new brand. But this idea he had was that when we were coming in touch with Oda Norbury, a stone had escaped from one of the planets and landed on planet Earth. That's how we got introduced to Oda Norbury already now. But this stone came from the future. I know this is really crazy. He said that this stone has landed on Earth and it has scattered a lot of things. So the concept for Oda Norbury was particles. Particles is practically everywhere. So we had this little workshop. I think there's a thing here that the client did. This is Farsad doing a particle sensor board together with us in Oslo. This was what we agreed upon was the foundation then or the concept for Oda Norbury. We created a simplified word mark like this. We actually picked stones, real stones from Norway. They came some stones from New York as well. They sent some stones from New York. And 1 stone from Los Angeles, and then my friend in Dubai, he sent a stone to us as well. So we had a couple of stones that we painted black, and particles as a concept was really intriguing because when you spray a perfume, there's basically these molecules is also particles that comes out. When you put on a skin cream, you put on a lot of particles on your skin. So this was kind of interesting how his idea could be manifested also in a graphic design concept and the packaging design for the whole product. So this is the first prototype for the perfume bottle. It's going to be a rock like this. We did some testing with typography. These are some sketches for the moisturizing cream. And here you see the packaging, how we treated these particles, putting them onto the packaging, telling the story about this particle world and how this, as you can see here actually, we use these kind of particles on the packaging, like this. So these are still prototypes, and here's the brand identity sketching. Books, we can skip this one. This is Art and Theory. It's for a publisher in Sweden. You can skip that one. Then skiing, just quickly so you can get a little glimpse of this quite different project that we did then in Saarbach Hinterglem. It's a huge area. This is actually the area. It's these three towns or villages that are now totally interconnected. I think it's the 7th largest in the world. It's really huge. And as you can imagine, the need for a wayfinding system is crucial. This and the idea work and the process around this project was about landscape architecture. Basically landscape architecture, understanding the geometry of the site, understanding this huge area, which almost takes, I think, to ski from one part of the system to the other, almost like 2.5 hours or something. This was a very interesting project. I loved this project because we could utilize all the knowledge that we had internally at Snøhetta with working together with landscape architects and also architects of understanding the geometry and the geospace of this and the spatial depth, which is super important, and time. Space and time is really, really interesting when it comes to wayfinding like this. And the concept was sequence. Sequence was our idea about it. There's a lot of theories around this here, how sequence is actually, could be manifested in everything from the lift stations going in a sequence. This is sequential move of the lifts to actually how people move, when you ski. It's this sinus wave when you ski. It's a sequence also. And this ever-passing and flow of people in the system. It's also a sequence. It never ends. This system, I don't really recall the numbers now, but it's an amazing amount of people that use this system every day. Sequential things are interesting in terms of wayfinding, of course, because as you can see, road signs like this, they are built up on this sequence that you have to inform people at different stages, and different speeds. So a little bit more of the graphical here, the sequence of the lifts. This interesting graphical sequence of skiing, Fibonacci sequence. This is a lot of inspiration boards that we used. How we can utilize architecture in that, and how architecture could tell the story about sequence and how that could help people to find the right direction. Here's the whole area. I just want to come to this one. This is the first board. What we did then was, after investigating this thinking of sequence, we wanted to work with colors. We knew that what's the backdrop of a ski system? What's the color of the backdrop? It's a white canvas, so color is very, very useful. And it's interesting how color interact with that and how you should think about how color change during different stages of the sun and different lighting and such. Now you ask me, well, how about in the summer? Yeah, well, this system is just for the winter. In the summertime, it changes. So this wayfinding system was just for the skiing part. So we just had, snow as a backdrop. That was the main important thing when we came to the conclusion. Let's divide the 4 different districts into colors. Let's make it really simple. That if you live in Hinterglem, you are pink. If you start up in Leogang, you are blue. That means that if you buy a ski pass in Leogang, you get a blue ski pass. So if you get lost, someone will see that, oh, you're from Leogang. They can help you back because instantly they recognize these colors. And it's also good because you simplify the whole area much more. You make the large thing seem pretty small. So the interesting here is how we utilize this sequential thinking and the color coding of enabling these portions. It's almost like creating a new country. We even did a flag there with this pointing in the right direction of that. We created a custom typeface, Ski Circus Sans, also for this one. You had the need to communicate long words on a small space, like a signboard. And here is the interesting part, because here is where you can see how the architecture together with the design make this unifying whole, which is in our world absolutely amazing. How the architecture together with the design could help you find your way. So this sequential thinking of this is the parking area, and how it actually leads you to the most interesting part, where the info boards are. You see they get closer and closer to each other like this. And also utilizing this lamella technique in the signboards, that you could then easily, let's see if we could go to that one. Here, the construction of that, how you could utilize this simple technology in actually dismounting and mounting these signs. So in the summertime, you dismount the signs, and what's left is a beautiful structure that then again could function as an architectural piece, or a sculpture park, or something that still would interact with nature when it's not snow, when you're not skiing. So in the mountain, then you would find something more like this. You know, it could be a bench or anything. It could be something that didn't intrude in the landscape, because a lot of these things are kind of an intrusion of a landscape when you're there in the summer. This was an important thing to create this unified whole of signage and structure and architecture together like this. Right, yeah, there's some pictures here of how this could be multifunction landmark, also something that you could use in the summertime to know where you are, like this. Right. Damn, why does he have to? Oh, well, it's almost 10. So now the party begins. Okay, thank you for listening. Let's discuss a little bit. Let's hear if you have any questions.